Good evening and hello to everyone. Um, I'm coming to make another video to talk about corruption within organizations that may not be easily detected or visible to the members or supporters of that organization or institution. Um, my organization, the organization I'm a part of, not mine, I don't own it. I'm a part of an organization known as the United House of Prayer for All People. It is under 501c3, thereby being a nonprofit organization. And I unfortunately discovered that there is corruption throughout our leadership. I started going to individuals within positions of leadership only to find that nothing was done, swept under the rug, or completely covered up or ignored. So after several years, by several meaning over a decade of going to individuals one-on-one in person, all the way to the top of our organization, I left it alone when no one did anything until I learned, this is 2025, I learned in 2022 that our leader, the bishop of our organization, was 2023. No, actually, it was 2022. I suspected greatly that our leader was involved in corruption. It was confirmed for me in 2023. I went back to try to fix this issue in 2024, and our current bishop did not let me get in to do what the law says that we're supposed to do, being Mr. A.D. Cunningham. At any rate, this video is pertaining to corruption as stated, and it is intended for informational purposes only, educational as well. And it is intended for anybody in any organization, in any institution, anywhere that feels that what you see here might be a red flag to alert you to what perhaps might be going on within your organization or the institutions that you're a part of, whether it's collegiate, colleges, any other organization that has to do with anything. It really doesn't matter as long as it's under, well, I'm talking about nonprofits, but it can be any organization, private or public. That said, if you suspect there's anything going on, you should very well get up to start asking questions so that you can expose what's being done in the dark and bring those types of corruption to a halt so that it does not inadvertently and negatively affect the members of or participants in, or even those that are on other positions of authority. It does not affect them negatively. We will be covering in the 501c3 certain things that determine the penalties of individuals that do break the law and are not compliant with the laws, not only the laws of your organization, but also the laws of the land, which incidentally, there are a lot of. Here where we are in the United States, I have been explicitly talking about national law. However, in a couple of videos, I've now discussed things as it pertains to the 501c3 from a General Assembly here in the state that I'm currently in, North Carolina. And that brings me to the point of what I'm about to say now. Any state that you're in, that state has its own laws concerning the 501c3. The problem here is, if you are a national organization, you must be complicit. You must comply. In other words, simply follow along. You must be in alignment with. You must obey. You must be set up in accordance with the laws of that state as well as the federal, the federal government. And as the word implies, government is used to govern everybody that's under that provision. If you are a citizen of this country, it doesn't matter whether you like who's in charge or not. They're there to govern, whether it's a president, whether it's our legislators, whether it's an individual justice or judge on the Supreme Court. If you're there in the state and you don't like who the governor is, guess what? It doesn't matter. They are the governor. He, she, Democrat, Republican, Independent, it does not matter. They're the one that's in charge. And as long as they're in charge, their job is to govern. However, the law does not exempt even the person that's in charge. The organization I'm a part of, the individual leaders across the organization has been doing a lot to get themselves dirty. And as I stated in a previous video, we don't want them to be dirty. We don't want them to continue in their filth when it comes to waddling in mud. The statement was made that I was trying to drag our former leader through mud. And for those of you who are not aware of this, I stated that I'm not trying to drag anybody through mud. I'm not trying to make anybody look bad. Individuals already look bad by doing the things that they've been doing behind closed doors in the dark without the knowledge of the people. Not only without the knowledge of, but the consent also. If you are going to be in any position of authority over a group of people, you must be the example before the people that you're supposed to serve. And this organization, our leaders do not serve the people. They do not follow the laws because they serve themselves. And as a result of anybody who's in a position serving themselves, the people of that institution or organization, they desperately need to get to the bottom of whatever it is going on before that organization collapses in on itself. For that reason, there's laws set up. And of course, whenever you bring up laws, the individuals that are breaking the laws, they don't want to hear about them. Why not? Because they're the ones breaking them. So that brings me to this point. There is a need, an absolute necessity of sharing things, information with you all, the viewers, so that you are made full aware of what should be done and what should not be done. For this reason, I am a reader of what we have come to know as the Holy Bible. There is a book by a writer named Hosea, his writings. And within that particular writing, he himself says, 4th chapter, 6th verse, that talking about our Heavenly Father, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. So the more knowledge we seek and obtain, then the best, the greatest, the immediate benefit should be we should not end up destroying ourselves. In fact, it should be the absolute opposite, that we're now finding a way how to get out of a situation where trouble is certain, and the end thereof is sure. Meaning, when it comes to individuals that are disobeying or disrespecting the law, not following the law, that person's end is definite. So going before any just judge, then you can almost guarantee that there's going to be a penalty, not in the favor of the individual that broke the law, if the judge is a just judge, which is why the judges on the Supreme Court are referred to, just as any other court, a justice. They are a judge. and they're supposed to render justice. And because they live, eat, sleep, breathe, walk, think about, just everything is law, 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 because their job is to defend the law, their job is to enforce the law, their job is to hold law breakers accountable to their actions. That person who's going to issue judgments as a result of looking at evidence that does say that this individual broke the law, after that has been concluded, then they will initiate a penalty for breaking the law. The thing is that they don't just make stuff up. The law itself says what the penalty is going to be. We're going to get back to that. Right now, we've been going into things pertaining to the 501c3. And as such, I want to allow you all to watch something with me, just to look at one point, and then we're going to kind of talk about it and go from there. Anyway, let's look at this. Okay.
And this is part 7 of our Starting a Nonprofit series, Executive Compensation. When many people think of nonprofits, they immediately envision a volunteer-run organization. And that might be true of the organization you're setting up, but just as likely, your organization may need to hire people in order to accomplish its mission. Maybe it's you or someone else that's going to be working for pay, but one thing is for certain, it's absolutely essential that compensation be set up properly. Now, salary packages within nonprofits are a particular point of IRS scrutiny, especially when it comes to what you pay a manager or executive director. And in order for a particular compensation level to pass IRS muster, it must be considered reasonable. Now, unfortunately, the IRS does a poor job of defining this subjective criteria, but there are best practice methods of assigning pay packages that satisfy this requirement. Think about job duties, resume, geographic region, industry norms, and financial capacity of the nonprofit, for example. If the nonprofit can't afford it, it's probably not reasonable.
Now, first of all, I'm going to let you hear that one more time. I know he's talking fast. So let's hear this again.
Salary packages within nonprofits are a particular point of IRS scrutiny.
The salary package within a nonprofit is a particular point of interest to the IRS. Their scrutiny. They are going to look at carefully. They're going to look at carefully. In fact, let me allow you to look at something. Okay? Scrutiny, critical observation, or examination. I'm allowing you to understand as we go along, because I don't want to make stuff up. I don't want you to think that, well, I don't exactly know what I'm talking about. But they're going to observe, critically observe, and examine the salary of officers of a nonprofit, according to what he just said. And since they are going to carefully look at the salary of a CEO or any other officer of a nonprofit, then it stands to reason that that person needs to make sure that what they're receiving is in compliance with the law. And the people who's paying that person, they need to make sure that what they are receiving is in compliance with the law. Let's listen further. I'm not playing all of this video. I'm only playing parts of it.
Satisfy this requirement. Think about job duties, resume, geographic region, industry norms, and financial capacity of the
job duty, resume, industry norms, geographical location, and the capacity for the nonprofit to pay it. Can they afford it? But job duties, I've asked over and over and over again, what are the duties of our bishop? What does he do in order to require Compensation. What are his job duties? No one has answered that question for me. No one has answered that question for me. No one has answered that question for me. Why? Because nobody knows what it is that the bishop of our organization does in order to rightfully claim the compensation that he's receiving for being the CEO of our organization. That is a very big problem. The second thing he said, what is their resume? Well, what is the resume of our CEO? Okay, well, in this organization, it says that he must be a former minister. He was a former minister. He served for a long time. But let's look at that service that he offered and gave to the congregations that he was a minister of. Did they approve of? Did they like? Did they fill in the blank? Let's ask a whole bunch of other questions. Let's look at the resume. He doesn't have a resume. We don't have resumes for our ministers in our organization. But what does make up a resume? Questions being asked of the members that they used to be pastors of. And if you question many of those members that they used to be pastors of, especially this particular minister, who is now the current leader of our organization, Mr. Cunningham, if you question the members that he used to be a pastor of, you would be surprised at a lot of the answers coming from those members that he used to be the pastor of. But this is what should be required when looking at this particular candidate to see if they are a good fit to be the CEO of this organization, since this organization is one of a religious capacity. So if you're going to have somebody that is going to be set up as the biggest officer of the organization, which does claim to be a religion and a religious institution, then it only stands that that officer should himself be an advocate of at least walking within the confinements of the laws of the organization, because it's a religious institution. That individual should have characters, should have certain aspects, certain qualities, certain attributes about themselves. And the word tells us what many of those things are. But again, how do you find out? Well, you ask the individuals that they were a pastor of. You check, look at their background. Do we have time to do that in our organization? No. The way that we pick is in a meeting referred to as our General Assembly, which is our board of directors. I have said, I'm going to come back to that, and we're going to pick that apart later. But as we go forward, I'm right now talking about the compensation package of our CEO, because this is a very, very, very big problem. Let's listen further.
Nonprofit, for example. If the nonprofit can't afford it, it's probably not reasonable.
If the nonprofit organization cannot afford whatever that salary is for that CEO, then it's probably not reasonable. The biggest problem that we have as an organization is nobody in the organization can tell us how much our CEO is getting paid. Nobody can tell us how much our CEO is getting paid for his services to the organization. I'm going to talk about that some more in a minute, but let's listen to this a little further.
Now, another thing the IRS requires is that salaries be determined at arm's length. Well, what does that mean? If you're hiring an outsider, someone with no other role or direct connection to the nonprofit, this arm's length concept is probably satisfied already. The issue is when you have an insider, say a board member, who's also going to be paid as an employee. In these situations, greater care is required in order to make sure that that person is not involved in any board decisions regarding their own pay.
He just said, now, so that you know, this person is a CEO. They happen to be currently a CEO. They are the chief executive officer of a group that he himself is currently over. And he's advising people. Why should we listen to this person? Well, the group of individuals that he assembled and put together, the only purpose that this person and their group came together is so that they can give information pertaining to, wait for it, the 501c3. You're going to learn about this particular person's group. I'm going to fast forward to the end of this video in a moment so that you can see for yourself. But they absolutely know what they're talking about because they give information to anybody who's interested in starting a nonprofit so that they will know the intricacies, the ins and outs, the details of how to go about starting one and what do you need to do in order to fulfill the obligations and the responsibilities and the criteria that comes along with placing yourself under a 501c3. Listen carefully. Oh,
And one more criteria.
he just said that an insider who is a board member, keep in mind, the CEO is not only hired by the board. Our organization, we elect bishops. Therefore, the bishop is, by very definition, the CEO, a part of the board. So by right, he gets to have access into the board meetings, the General Assembly meetings. However, what one very big problem is for our organization is that the bishop / CEO should not have the right at all to preside over the General Assembly because he's not the one in charge. He's the one that is hired by the General Assembly. And yes, we get to rightfully, legally, lawfully use that term, hired. Why? Because according to our, are you aware? It says on page 20, okay, page 20, it says at the top, again, let's look at number 1. According to Article 15 of the Supreme Laws for the government of the United House of Prayer for all people of the Church on the Rock of the Apostolic Faith, a free will offering, I'm sorry, I'm reading this backwards, shall be taken by the congregation for the bishop. Let me go ahead and read normally now. Yeah, I used to practice reading backwards on occasion for different reasons while I was on the negotiations committee. Shall be taken by the congregation for the bishop whenever he is present in service. This offering is compensation for his service to the organization and is classified under the Internal Revenue Code as taxable income. Okay? He's compensated. So since he's compensated by the organization, that means, by very definition, he is an employee of the organization. Well, who's the employer? The organization. Well, who is the organization? The people. We could call them shareholders, but the problem is this is a nonprofit. We are not shareholders because there are no shares in a nonprofit. Shares are in a private company. But a nonprofit does not have shares. We don't sell our ownership on the open market. I'm getting ahead of myself. But we are the shareholders in the sense that we make up the organization. We have the greatest interest in the organization. We are the organization, the members. That's why I talk about this in the sense of a credit union. The members of that credit union, they are the owners of the credit union, in a sense. So the people hire the bishop. How did they do that? Well, they nominate and elect delegates from each congregation to go to the board meeting, the General Assembly, which they, the delegates, now become a board member to go there so that they can handle the business of the people who make up the organization. And the board members hire a CEO. Now, another big problem that we have is we don't know how much our CEO is getting paid. That presents a very, 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 very big problem. Let's go further.
Point involves private foundations only. If a private foundation is looking to hire a board member,
Pay attention.
one more criteria point involves private foundations only. If a private foundation is looking to hire a board member or other insider, what the IRS considers a disqualified person, that salary must not only be reasonable, but it also must be professional in nature and fundamentally necessary to the accomplishment of the mission. But there's a whole lot more that we can say about that issue, but we'll save that for a more detailed discussion.
Now, he just said that the IRS finds an insider, somebody who's in the board, getting paid as a disqualified person. That person is disqualified if they're an insider, meaning not really being just a member of the board. Board members can, there's ways that board members can get paid. But again, if he's talking about a private organization, we're not private, we're public. But it presents a bigger problem because, again, look at what he says.
Say a board member who's also going to be paid as an employee. In these situations, greater care is required in order to make sure that that person is not involved in any board decisions regarding their own pay.
Making sure that that person is not involved in a board decision regarding their own pay. Who sets up the salary for a CEO? That's the board. The people, they decide how much their CEO is going to get paid. The people, the employer, they decide how much the employee CEO is going to get paid. No CEO anywhere goes into a company, they're hired, and the company tells them, listen, go ahead, have your way with our bank accounts. Set your own salary. In fact, don't even worry about the accounts. You can go to all the employees in the company, and we will set something up that every time you show up, that you come out there and you have any event with any of the employees. We have, let's say, 137 locations in our company, 137 warehouses, 137 schools, 137 restaurants, 137 manufacturing plants. Our organization happens to have 137 congregations. But in this example, let's say the company says to that CEO, you can go anywhere around the country to any of our schools, any of our restaurants, any of our manufacturing plants. And whenever you go, that school there will be a call made for them to take up a collection for you. And that's going to be your pay. Your pay. Now, when you go there, not only are they going to be required to take up a collection for you, but when you leave and go and travel everywhere else, they're now going to make a call every single week while you're gone to take up a collection for you. But the book doesn't call that compensation. The book only says when a collection is called when you're present. That's compensation. But when you leave and they make a call for you to get paid over and over, every single week of the year, by every single congregation, 137 every week, taking up a collection for the leader / CEO. This is compensation. Now, the question from those individuals who are going to intricately, carefully observe / evaluate your salary, the question they're going to ask is it reasonable? They're going to look at the responsibilities and the obligations and the duties of that CEO and ask, is this pay reasonable for the duties and the responsibilities listed here? Another big problem is the board of directors, the General Assembly. They don't make this book. They don't set the rules in it. The bishop does. So we have another problem. The bishop is really in charge of creating his own salary? No, it doesn't work like that. Let me show you how it works. We have, if you recall, this book, Constitution. I've been telling you, make sure you learn and understand these laws, these books. This is how this works. This Constitution, 2009, was replaced, unlawfully, illegally replaced by one of the former leaders, of which our current leader assisted and helped him on multiple occasions, helped to recreate a constitution illegally, and to give the impression to the members of the organization that they're the ones that did it, and printed false information in these constitutions to give the impression to everybody outside of the organization that the members of the organization that were included in the General Assembly, they created the laws in this book. Now, why is it important for this book to have fraudulent information in it? Because people, I'm going to show you that the members of the organization are not the only ones that's going to be looking at the laws in these books. This is how it works. When they replace this book with another book, and the people had nothing to do with it, the people did not consent, the people did not talk about it, the people did not discuss it, the people didn't even want it. The people never even brought it up that we want to change our Constitution. So meetings were had, backdoor meetings, with different ones that were invited to the table behind the members' back that they knew nothing about, and they utilized an individual within the organization who happened to have been the daughter of the former bishop. Why would they use her? Because she also had ESQ behind her name, which is short for Esquire, another name for attorney at law. She happened to be an attorney, and what she did was she came up with ways of doing things within the Constitution behind also the people's back. One of those things that she did was to create an order of precedence. You do not see this at all in this book. This was not put here by the members of the organization. This was not put here by the General Assembly. This was put here by fraudulent actions being caused by leaders of the organization doing things behind the backs of the members of the organization unlawfully, with the help of, once again, our current leader. And let me show you how this works. What does it say in the order of precedence? Take a picture or pause so that you can read along with me. All documents, order of precedence, all documents promulgated for the governance of the United House of Prayer for all people are intended to be taken as mutually explanatory of one another. What that means is, okay, somebody who's reading this book, if there's a question that arises, well, we can give you additional information by referring you to this book. And if that's not enough, we can give you additional information by referring you to actually not this one. They made another one. We can refer you to this book. And if that's not enough and there needs further explanation, then we'll refer you to this book. Now, it's important that this is here because they are going to try to use in a court of law these words to incorporate this book and this book as an addendum or as an addition to this book. By putting this right here, that one section just attached this and this by court of in the court of law. The court of law will now say, well, according to what's written here in your Constitution, it says the order of precedence. All documents promulgated for the governance of the United House of Prayer for all people are intended to be taken as mutually explanatory. Not just this, but mutually, these two books will explain what's written in this book. Very, very cunning. Very, very slick. Nice try, but we got caught. Look at what it says. For the purposes of interpretation, to interpret the Constitution, we're going to go to these two. For purpose of interpretation, should there be any ambiguity, inconsistency, or discrepancy between the documents, they shall be resolved by the following order of precedence. The Constitution and bylaws of the United House of Prayer first. The supreme laws for the government of the United House of Prayer second. The auxiliary bylaws and regulations for the governing of the auxiliaries of the House of Prayer third. Now, this last sentence, right here, this one, it says all of the articles and provisions of the aforementioned documents, all of the articles and provisions in these two documents shall be hereby incorporated herein by reference. So these have now been made a part of the Constitution. Incorporated herein by reference with the same force and effect as though fully set forth herein. That one sentence just added these two books to the Constitution. If you don't think that paying attention to this Constitution is necessary, then you are going to be one of the individuals that continue, like we always have in this organization, to be robbed blind, to be taken advantage of, to be lied to and manipulated and deceived year in, year out, over and over and over again. And there's absolutely nothing, not only that you can do about it because you haven't been paying attention, but there's not a thing that will be done for you on your behalf from this organization. That is why when people went to the leader, when they needed him, Families have gone to our leaders. Individuals have gone to our leaders. They went to pastors. They went to district chairmen. They went to state chairmen. They went to the general council, and they went to the bishops themselves over and over and over and over again. Problem after problem, individual after individual, member after member, family members of the organization, all of them to be turned down, to be turned away, or to be completely ignored. We do not have documentation that shows any assistance that came from the leaders toward the members of the organization when they were in the time of need. Why is that? Because the bishop has worked behind people's back in order to change our Constitution over decades anytime they wanted to without the people knowing about it, to incorporate laws into the Constitution in order for the courts to back up what they want to enforce on the members of the organization. So this is how they have gotten the court to enforce what they want from the members, because the members have not been paying attention. And as of this date, the members have not risen up to make sure that the courts are aware that the members have been manipulated, lied to, and completely deceived by the leaders of the organization. This video, along with these other videos, are to make the people aware. It is not to incite anything. It is to simply make people aware. The ones that should be angry are not at all the people who are supporting Bishop Mr. Cunningham. I had to correct myself. Currently, he is I don't want to use a term that people are not going to understand. So he is an ineffective, unlawfully sitting bishop. So I will, as one of the viewers stated, I will respect him by calling him Mr. Cunningham. I will not call him now the B word, because he's not officially, lawfully, or legally acting in a official, legal bishop's office. He is acting under the color of, what the law calls color of. He's looking like, it appears as if he has the rights and the authorities of the bishop, but he does not, because he's supposed to be suspended. Same thing when it comes to the general counsel. Same thing when it comes to the secretary of the General Assembly and the assistant secretary. So our entire leadership, because they've all proven to be fraudulent, dealing falsely, working behind closed doors to break laws and cover for one another after they've broken those laws. Now that it's been discovered and brought forward for the people to be made aware of our leaders that are completely and fully corrupt, now the man who is our CEO and the man who is supposed to serve him and his assistant, they're now just sitting there, still coming out, still coming before the people, which is... And why? Why are the people allowing this? Because there's a slogan that he's been using. Right here. And I have to, okay, if you look at, don't pay attention to him. I know your attention is drawn straight to the bishop, Mr. Cunningham. Because of, he does not, he never dressed like that. All the years I've known him, he has never, ever dressed like that. We have, for all of you who are not members of the organization, our lead, the CEO of the organization, our leaders, they have people that many times they will coordinate attire or wardrobes for him to actually wear on outings at different events. even to various services in the organization. He a lot of times does not pick his own. He might pick an outfit out of what they put together, but this is not the whole thing. And whoever it is that's putting these outfits together, the yellow shoes and the tan would have been perfect, but this is canary yellow. The shoes and the hat. That there's a children's book with a anyway. I'm sorry. The point is that he didn't. I want to here. Let me do this. See this T-shirt? You can't see it, but it says "We to." Matter of fact, there's a different picture. Let me, one second. Here we go. Okay. This is here. You see the T-shirt standing beside him. Okay, it says, "We get to do this. We get to do this." The problem here, I'll blow it up. Or zoom in, not blow up. But we get to do this. The problem is that the members that are still supporting him, they mean well. They may not know about these videos. Therefore, they may not know about what he's done. They may not even be aware of the laws that he has violated. They may not be aware of the laws that any of the council has violated. They may not be aware of what the General Assembly Secretary has done, because if you are in support of our bishops, then what's being told is to not hear anything negative. Don't give your attention to anything at all that's being said by anyone that is negative pertaining to our leaders. Period. It's been that way for 100 and I think this is 170 years now. We've been here. But that's why. And the members, they do that. So we have supporters right now still attending services, still going out. Many supporters are not even aware of, when he talks about YouTube, that he's talking about this. They don't know anything about it. We still have individuals finding out about these videos. They're still learning about these videos, and they're going back to watch video number 1 and catching up. People are still calling and sending in emails and text messages like, "I had no idea that this is going on." And like, yes, exactly. But anyway, I said that to say this, that the reason why this video is important is because in the Are You Aware, it stipulates that the offering that's taken up by him, it is compensation, and it refers to the supreme law, which is now this book. So what Mickey Bailey has done, the attorney, the daughter of a former bishop, which is incidentally a conflict of interest, but what she has done is to create something that could be placed inside of the Constitution to actually attach the supreme laws and the auxiliary bylaws to the Constitution. So this is why it was important for her to do that. In the supreme laws, you see in Article 15, I will put it up here for a second, at the bottom. Okay, now just listen carefully. Called for by the General Council, a free will offering shall be taken by the congregation for the bishop wherever the convocation is in session, or at times other than during the convocation, by the chairman or pastor whenever the bishop is present for services. So let's go back to the example that I gave a moment ago. Now, that's in this book, but the Are You Aware actually goes into a little bit more detail, because it says, once again, on page 19, or 20 rather, that, again, I'll hold this up, according to Article 15 of the Supreme Laws. They're citing what's in the Supreme Laws. And now the Supreme Laws is now a part of this fraudulent, illegal Constitution. That's why they do it. So the bishop has now been allowed to write his own salary. The whole point of this video is to show that the bishop is not supposed to write his own salary. As a CEO, no CEO in any corporation gets to walk into the corporation that hires them and say, I'm going to pay myself. I'm going to make my own salary. Y'all don't have to touch your accounts. But what I will do is go around to the employees of the company, every single satellite site, every single office, every restaurant / warehouse / manufacturing plant, or whatever it is that that company does. I will go to all of the employees. We have, let's say, 48,762 employees, and we will set up something to where they can pay me. You don't have to worry about paying me. And the company says, oh, snap, that's a good idea. You know what? We don't have to take anything out of our account. We can pay him that way. He says, sure. And the employees, let them pay. Let them take that hit. So now on top of the employees' taxes, their FICA, their Social Security, their whatever other deductions they have, as well as their monthly expenses, their rent or mortgage, their gas for their vehicles, their auto insurance, their health insurance, their life insurance, their renters insurance, or their tax, property taxes that they have to pay. On top of all those things, plus school fees, food expense, clothing expense, any other expense. You have a cat, you have a dog, you have a goldfish, you got to buy food for the gold. Anything that comes out of those employees' pocket. This is one more tax on the employee that the board members are agreeing that's a good idea. We should do that. And the company gets to save money. The problem is the employees are going to get angry. Now, do the employees want that? No, the employees don't want that, because the employees don't want more money coming out of their pocket. And you, the board of directors, have been sent there to look after the employees / members of the organization and not look out for the benefit of the CEO. That's why in the next video, we're going to talk about the benefits of the CEO and why they are illegal if they're non-compliant with the laws of the land as disclosed under the regulations of the 501c3. The way it's set up right now, this is way, way wrong. Why? Because there is no salary. Nobody knows how much our leader is receiving in compensation. And in writing, the compensation that's being taxed is only, according to them, what's being collected in what is called a love march, because the call is made for the people to give offering. But I'm sure a dime to a dozen that the money coming in as love gift that's being called for as an offering by the individual houses whenever he's not present, 137 locations, 52 weeks a year. 137 locations, 52 weeks a year, calling for love gift. Even if it's just $100. $100. Let's make it easy for everybody to follow me. Let's say it's $1,000 for each congregation. That's 137,000. 137,000. 137. 52 weeks a year. 137,000. If that's every week, out of every congregation, do you see how these numbers add up? $137,000 a week multiplied times 52 weeks. Right now, your minds are doing this. Let's take it back down to 100. Let's say $100 a week because they're small congregations. Now, still looking at $13,700 per week times 52. Is that reasonable? For doing what? Take it back up to 1,000. That's on top of all the money that he's getting during the Love March. The money being collected during the week, every week in every congregation, that's on top of the money's being collected whenever the members ride the buses to go and visit these houses that he's attending. There might be 3 or 4 buses. I said before, there might be $20,000 to $30,000 raised on a bus ride. On top of the gift called Love Gift being taken every week. On top of the Love March. On top of money that's coming throughout the service that's not being sent up during the Love March. My point is this. Does the law see that as reasonable? Does your family members who are not members of the house of prayer, do they see that as reasonable? Is the pay of the CEO of this nonprofit organization, is this compensation coming out of the account that the organization owns? Or is it one more tax on the back of the members? Is it reasonable? Last question. How did we get to a point where our CEO has the luxury and the authority to write his own laws and his own compensation? When this all hits the fan, I'm going to show you that there's laws that says the board of directors can be held accountable for a rogue CEO that they did not get control of or fire. We don't want to be in that position. I'll see you in the next video.